Hey, friends. Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host, Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey, Hallmarkies. Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, joined today for the first time by my good friend, Catherine, from the RomCom Trivia Experience to talk about the Love You Wary original movie from Hallmark Channel, an American in Austen, starring Nicholas Bishop, Eliza Bennett, and Nell Barlow. And I apologize if I mispronounce any names here, but it was written by Cameron Johan and directed by Claire Niederpruem. Magically transported into the story of Pride and Prejudice, a librarian gets the chance to discover if any man can compare to Mr. Darcy. Welcome to the podcast, Catherine. I'm excited to have you on today.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm really excited to be
Of
here.
course.
Yeah, this one was totally up my alley for movies, so I'm excited to chat about it.
Same. Yeah, it was really good. To start us off, would you like to share some of your hot takes, like first initial thoughts about the movie?
Well, first thought is Hallmark needs to do way more of these old-fashioned
Yeah.
90s themed style rom-coms.
Mhm.
And then as a person who has never watched Jane Austen or read the books,
Mhm.
sorry,
That's fine.
I am completely enamored and want to after this Love You Worry. I loved this movie the
Yeah.
most, but I thought the entire month was a great successful event.
Yes, I agree. I still haven't seen the last one since it's
Oh,
still
you're
on.
in for a treat. Like I Dara just did her review and she was same thing. She's just like, I haven't read the book. I want to read the book. And that was I messaged her right away. I said, I'm the exact same. I go, this has made me want to look at all adaptions. All I knew about Mr. Darcy was Colin Firth.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. I heard it was a really good movie,
Yeah. Yes.
so I'm excited to see it. But I think this one, out of the ones I've seen so far, has been number one for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
right in front of Paging Mr. Darcy, which I actually just reviewed yesterday on the podcast.
Well, it was kind of a tight race. That was my number one until this one came.
Yes, it was really good.
Yeah.
But anyway, some of my hot takes: amazing, well written script with lots of comedy, you know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a throwback to the, 90s rom coms, which I loved,
Mm-hmm.
and fantastic ensemble cast and chemistry. The costumes.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not sure who designed the costumes, but amazing job.
Yes. I would even say the estates. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, like where I apologize. I did not look to see where they filmed this,
Yeah.
but yeah, just amazing. I mean, complete 100% Bridgerton feels for me for that. And that budget versus a Hallmark budget. So what
Yeah.
they did was impressive
Yes.
with where they did their location scouting.
Yeah, I agree. It was very true to the time period with the
Mhm.
buildings and the wardrobe and even the way that they talked, like even some of the vocabulary used, I thought was
Oh,
very well
yes,
done.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. The time travel aspect I thought was done well too.
Yeah, I thought that it was very seamless. Like
Yeah.
it didn't, because there are the times that it seems like it's, like really out there and,
Hmm.
for her just to close her eyes and then to
Yeah.
wake up and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Very
agree
well
with you.
done. Yes. And my last thing for my hot takes is that I would love a sequel, maybe not with the Bennett sisters, that might be a little difficult, but with Ethan and Harriet. I would like to see
Mm,
them in another movie, kind of maybe a spin-off, because we didn't
okay.
get to see a whole lot of them, only
Right.
like the opening scene and then the closing scene.
And I'll have thoughts on that one when we do another segment too.
Yes, sounds good. But moving into our highlights section, would you like to share some of the moments that you thought were the best in this movie or key to the story?
Um, I would say that first and foremost, I thought the highlights was the humor and the way that they
Mm-hmm.
did it, and that includes the physical humor.
Yeah.
Eliza dove right into it, from falling out of the
Yes.
carriage right away.
Yeah.
And that ran through the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was such a huge highlight. Like, to be honest, as you know, we lost my dad recently, and I
Mm-hmm.
had my mom watch it because it was one of those movies that I was like,
Yeah.
I had watched it first. She's not the Hallmark watcher,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I think you might like this one. And the fact that she was laughing out loud, just
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm like, oh my gosh, they did it. It's perfect.
Yes. Oh.
um so really liked that. The It's so hard for me not knowing how accurate it really is
Mm-hmm.
to Pride
Yeah.
and Prejudice. I mean, I'm assuming based on Sense and Sensibility and how accurate everybody says that one was, that they
Mm-hmm.
kept the exact same, like
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty straightforward to the book. So I thought that they kept it moving really
Yeah,
well,
they did.
and
Yeah.
that you each character, even if they had such a small role, it still had something that made it memorable.
Yeah. There were a
So
lot of good scenes in this movie. I literally wanted to write down every single scene. I'm not even
yeah,
joking.
yeah. I mean, I really can't. I mean, the first thing that immediately comes is the falling out of the carriage. I can't think of any. Oh, and
Yeah.
then the library scene with her and Mr. Darcy, Harriet and
Yes.
Mr. Darcy.
Yeah.
That
There
those
were
would be
two
my top
library
two.
scenes with them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. The one when he's going over and climbing over
Oh,
the
when he goes to propose. Yeah. He's
yes, yes,
proposing.
yes,
Felix.
yeah. And
That was a
and
good.
at that point, especially because of the journey that she herself
Hmm.
had already gone on in the movie, it was yeah,
Yeah. That was a
that
good
would
one.
probably be my favorite one.
Yeah. I also love how when she arrives, in Pride and Prejudice, and she falls out of the carriage, when she meets the family and she's just putting the pieces together that way.
Hmm.
And
And
she's
then
like, the sideburns.
she's like, how much did it cost him to do this? Or, oh, you guys don't break character at all? And I mean, and how what are those actual, I mean, I can't think of what they're called right now, but they're everywhere, the pop-ups where you go and you have immersive experience. Aren't they immersive
I
experiences?
don't know. Cosplay, maybe? Is
No,
that
it's more, it's literally an immersive, because cosplay is like
um
more of like if you're going to a whole entire like
yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
so I think that's what they're called. I mean,
Yeah.
Bridgerton has just had one
Hmm.
an experience that was just here not that long ago. The Wizard of Oz is doing one that's coming really quickly. Disney's doing one. So
That's
I mean,
awesome. Yeah.
that's what, I really liked that they also, like
Yeah.
with the Taylor Swift, like even,
Hmm.
like kept it as trendy as they
Yeah.
could, but it still didn't feel out of place.
Yes.
And
Agreed. Yeah.
I would say that too for the immersive portion of it then.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's because that's what they were alluding at, is like, oh, how did you create this? Or how did
Yeah.
Ethan create it?
Yeah. Yeah. I love how she asked about them making burritos. That was funny.
I
When
don't
they were
remember.
walking inside the house.
Oh, for breakfast. Yes, because she hadn't eaten in whatever, like 10 weeks or something
Yeah.
like that for her travels.
Yep. Oh my
And
gosh.
all will be well after you've eaten. And yeah. And she had another joke. Oh, I really
Um,
wish I would remember exactly, but the breakfast with the toast.
oh yeah, what was it? It was something Jane said about Harriet being an old maid, I think. And
Yeah,
Harriet
I
like
mean,
goes to fist pump and the mom's like, Jane, do not encourage that.
yeah, no, I really definitely need. This is my next rewatch will be my third or fourth, and
Yeah.
it's gonna I'm gonna have to definitely write more notes next time because I'm like, wait, I'm like, I
Yeah.
know, no matter what, as I said, I just fell in love with the entire thing. So
Yes. Yeah. Same. Skipping back to the beginning and the scene with Ethan and Harriet, I thought that was a nice moment when they were having their 3-year anniversary dinner. And, Ethan is trying to have them move to a different table because he doesn't like that it's near the kitchen, which I thought was sweet.
Mhm.
And Harriet was like, it's fine, it's fine. I think it's beautiful. And then literally seconds later, someone runs into the
Yeah. Well, that's being in the kitchen for you. But
Yes.
people pay big dollars to eat in the kitchens at restaurants. So once again, they were trendy in their own way
Yeah.
by doing what
Yes.
they did.
Yes.
So yeah.
What did you think about his proposal at the beginning in the library?
I I that was the part that I would say I felt was rushed. I mean,
Yeah.
because we didn't really, that's my one thing, is that I didn't feel like we cheered on their relationship because we just
Hmm.
didn't have time to cheer it on.
Yeah. Very true.
And but in the long run, there's a reason why
Hmm.
they did it that way, obviously, based on what her journey is in the movie.
Hmm.
But that was, to me, it was just like, and then like when they also had, and the other thing that I couldn't figure out, to be honest, was they had said they were closing the library
Hmm.
because she was leaving,
Yeah.
and that or that something along those lines, that they could
Hmm.
close it early. So the fact
Yeah.
that she was surprised it was closed and that her boss had left, I didn't know if she was just kind of out,
I
like
don't know. Yeah.
not thinking. It was like maybe this is just me over analyzing, but
Hmm.
I was confused.
I was a
So
little confused too when she said she left her phone. Like, how could she
yes.
have left her phone? Yeah.
Yeah, and wasn't she, I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the restaurant, but she was distracted at the restaurant.
Hmm.
And if I recall right, wasn't she distracted on her phone? Because how else would she be distracted?
I
Because
think
she
so. Yeah.
because he was trying to talk to her, and that was when she had gotten some news or talking
Yeah.
about her plans.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, there's always going to be that kind
Something
of
that
element. I
slips through the
totally
cracks.
I totally forgive it,
Yes.
but it if it need as important as it was in the plot,
Hmm.
I kind
Yeah.
of wish they would have been able to dig in. But it was very sweet.
Yeah,
It was
it
a
was.
very sweet proposal.
Yes, it
So I don't
was.
want to just be the person who's
No,
being like,
I know what you mean. I agree. I felt the same as you. And going back to the scene when she, arrives, I forgot to mention this, the corset
oh
scene.
yes.
That was
Yeah.
hilarious.
I was surprised they put it in. I was like, have we become Hallmark After Dark? But kind of they have, because they're starting to do the shirtless scenes again now. So we're getting there with the girls. Not really. But I mean,
Not really.
I was at first I was like, is this Hallmark?
Yeah, I do
But
not.
no, absolutely, because it was like she was like, I don't need this. This is not anything we do in my time period or whatever. And
Oh my gosh.
so I they played it well, but it was
Mhm.
a very surprising scene for me.
Yeah, I do not know if I could wear a corset. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. No, nope. But I
No,
will say, if you do, it does. It obviously works really darn well. So in that way, I kind of would like to try. But
it would be
I
fun to try, but
I also don't feel like I'd be sitting for the entire week. Not
no,
even just the day. I'd be like, nope, I'm good.
no. It was kind of funny when she said, I can't feel my legs. And then she wanted to sit down, and I
They're
think
like,
it was
that's not good. You better not.
Elizabeth was like, no, it's better to stand up.
For another highlight, how about after she had fainted and supposedly somebody got her back to the house, and
Yes.
and how she's laying out on the couch, and she's like, I can hear you. And she was not by any means glamorous when she was laying out. I was like, that's what I loved. It was like it had real moments where it wasn't prim and proper, like
Yes.
she
Yeah.
was who she was. And so yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
And the
I
sisters
agree.
loved it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Tried
I
to
love
figure it.
when she runs into or she runs after the guy that she thinks is Ethan, and he tells her it's 1813. And then she puts the pieces together. She's like, no planes, no
Yeah.
power lines. I'm
Yeah.
stuck in Pride and Prejudice.
And then boom. Really, like, so for a whole 24 hours, she was thinking she was in the immersive experience. waiting for
Yep.
Ethan to come.
Yes. Also, can we just talk about the first ball and her meeting Mr. Darcy?
Mm-hmm. She wasn't gonna take any of his crap. That's
No.
what.
I love how she defends Elizabeth, and then as she's walking away, she's like, wow, you're hot.
Yeah. And the costumes for that, yeah. I was just blown away by specifically by Harriet's dress. What
Yes.
they how they dressed for, especially for a lot for her being the main character and stuff like that for Eliza. Like I'm like, I want her dressed for whatever my next event is that I have to dress up for.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Uh so yeah, and I'm totally into now thinking I need to get one of those for some. I need an occasion to wear it for. Let's go here.
Yes.
Um and then yeah, it was just like as she was putting the pieces together, like, how did you learn the music or how did you learn the dancing? And they're like, well, we've known this for our entire lives or
Lives
whatever. So
forever.
she's
Yeah.
like, okay, we're dancing. All right. And so yeah, no, it was the whole entire thing was great. And then
Yeah.
her that first experience
Yeah.
and time with Mr. Darcy pretty much sealed the deal of,
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of did want them to be, you knew that wasn't what the story was, but you
Yeah.
kind of wanted them together because they had that push and pull.
Yes. Agreed. And I love when Harriet, Elizabeth, and Jane are first walking in, and Harriet's like, who produced this? James Cameron?
Yes.
Because at this point, she still thought it was a joke.
And then the Titanic conversation came in or something like that, or
I think so.
something about the Titanic too. Yeah. And at that point, the Titanic wouldn't have happened. So they're just sitting there looking at her going, huh?
I know.
Yeah.
And even when she acknowledged his title, and they were like, huh, how do you know that already? Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
what?
Yeah. She really, I mean, you going back now you think about it, they really didn't seem concerned that she was a time traveler either. Like, I mean, obviously they were all just kind of like, they were like, how modern or however that when
Yeah.
she was just like, I said maybe, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
you're allowed to do that. And so I think they were just so impressed with who she was. If
Yeah.
she was coming into my house and you can't excuse being an American for time
Yeah.
travel versus, so I thought that was a little interesting too, is
Yeah.
that really didn't seem to matter to them
Yeah.
in the role of who she was.
Yeah. I thought another nice moment with Harriet, Elizabeth, and Jane was when they were talking in the bedroom, and Harriet is mentioning how she's older than 30, and Jane is like, and without a husband, you're practically fit for an asylum.
Exactly. Yep. I'm
Uh,
like, well, what does that make me?
and I think that's when one of them said, something along the lines of, oh, this is very modern, or
Yeah, this
something
is
like
how
that.
they do
Yeah.
it. And then she's like, this is how they do it in America. Oh, especially when they're like, what did your parents say? And she's like,
Yeah.
it's not an issue. And that
Yeah.
was to not have to answer to
Mm-hmm.
what your parents expected of you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then,
Yeah.
especially, yeah.
And then when she says she's going to bed and, hopes she wakes up in a couple of centuries, Jane just kind of looks at Elizabeth, and she's like, I think at that age you get very tired.
Yes, and that's what I loved, is that the humor
Yeah.
was sprinkled in and sometimes just done the perfect amount of
Yeah.
subtlety that if you weren't,
Hmm.
paying attention or waiting for or looking for it, you're just kind of like, did they just say what I thought they said? And that happened a lot
Hmm.
through the movie. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Another comical moment was the next morning when Harriet wakes up and Kitty is literally right there sitting
In
on her
her face.
bed.
Hmm.
And, she's like, this is a little weird. Where's my cell phone? And Kitty
Yeah.
pulls up a corset instead.
I know. She pulls up the corset. She's got her outfit, and then basically, like, immediately. Oh, and then I'm
The
gonna take a
basin,
bath. Yeah,
the
and it's
shower.
like that. She's like, oh, so that's okay. We're going with the smell. Okay, all right.
We used the basin on Saturday. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go with the smell. I'll let it go.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Oh
And
my
here's
gosh.
me, the person, the one who doesn't even like outhouses in real life, that I'm like, don't they
Mm-hmm.
question, that they're having
Yeah.
to, there's no indoor plumbing at all, I'm quite sure, right? I mean, maybe there is. I don't know. What year did indoor plumbing happen? I don't know.
I don't know. Probably, I don't know.
These
Probably
are
when
the
calls the
things that
hard
I need.
times. Yeah.
These are the things that I need to go back and watch actual like period pieces for, to
Yeah.
actually know. That's how I get my history.
Yeah.
It's through entertainment.
Yeah. Probably my guess would be early 1900s, like when calls the heart
Right.
times with
Yeah.
the more wealthy families is what
Right.
I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean they definitely would have covered it being the wealthy family, but
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking time period, it just didn't make sense. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was already like, well, you would know that there was no shower available then, if you, or even if you were
Mm-hmm.
into the one room that was the bathroom at that point, or
Yes.
whatever kind of a
Yeah.
thing. So, but
Yes.
no, that was cute, especially when they could bring it back to, I'm just going to embrace the smell or whatever and go with
Embrace the
it.
smell. Yep. I'm just
Yep.
gonna go with it.
Yep. Like, all right, easy peasy.
Yes. Another comical moment was when Harriet and Elizabeth were on their walk to Netherfield, I think the first time. And Harriet is kind of, commenting on them getting their dresses dirty. And I guess Mr. Bingley's sister, Caroline, saying something about it. And Elizabeth says, I refuse to imagine someone looking upon nature in such a way.
Right. Well, and isn't it because at that point it was something that Eliza had said that they needed, that because she wanted them to take the walk for a specific reason, right?
I think she
I
wanted them to take the carriage, but then,
Oh, okay.
yeah, Elizabeth said that they were going to take a walk, and this was at breakfast, when
Okay.
the comment about when they were eating toast, and
Oh,
here,
actually, yeah, because you're right. They didn't take the carriage, and then
hmm
they could have taken the carriage because Jane took the horse. So yeah,
yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and
And
Harriet,
because she was going to catch a cold.
yeah, and Harriet was like, okay, well, I guess I can't change that in the script or in the book.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. The throwbacks was great.
yeah.
Yeah.
I also loved the first scene with Harriet and Mr. Darcy in the library when they're looking at the books and Harriet picks up the one Evelina. And, that ties in later in the movie because he gifts her that book.
Mhm.
So I thought that was sweet.
So that, if I recall right, that inspired Pride and Prejudice. Was that book did?
I think so. It inspired Jane Austen.
Okay.
Probably
Yep.
to write Pride and Prejudice would be my
My,
guess. Yeah.
I'm going to admit this. I feel I'm going to be disappointing my aunt so much because she belongs to the Jane Austen Society. And so it's actually one of the reasons that I didn't really get
Oh,
into
yeah.
it, because she was so gung ho. She still to this day will say,
Mhm.
well, like anything that's an adaptation, well, that's not what Jane would want. And I'm like, do you really know what Jane would want? I mean, she might surprise you. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that I know her personality by
Yeah.
any be able to say that, but it was one of those, as a growing up as a
hmm
teenager, that it was just kind of an extra turn off, not like, if to be completely against what something she liked. And so
hmm
but I just sit there as I'm like, all these facts, I could call my Aunt Vicky right now and ask her.
Yeah. Oh.
I have her on speed dial.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I just thought of one. This was in the same time in the movie, but a different scene when they were in the sitting room and Harriet is nervous eating with one of the treats on the little platter. I don't know what it was, but
Oh,
that was
yes.
hilarious.
Yes, because she can't be close to Mr. Darcy because of the attraction that she has, knowing that he is more drawn in than he should be. And by that, yeah, yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, I mean that, and so that's another way that
Yeah.
they did comedy without having to even have any words with it. So,
Yeah. I love his reaction, how he's just watching her nervous eat. And like she takes a bite and it just like falls down her.
yep. She was true to herself. That's who she was.
Oh my gosh. That
So
would be me.
yeah,
Nervous
I
eating.
agree.
That would be me. I would be the one that would drop food on my clothes.
I'd probably be right there with you.
Oh my gosh. Before we move on to the next scene, I also have to mention the moment with Mr. Darcy and Harriet in the garden. That was hilarious at nighttime. And then I think this is when, after they finish talking and she walks away, she's like, "What is happening?"
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. Nope. I thought, and I thought the casting for Mr. Darcy was
Yes.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And then and I'll be honest, I know that he's done quite a few other or at least one or two other
One.
Hallmark movie. One,
I think his
just with
first one was last year, A Paris
with
Proposal.
Alexa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I immediately, because I watched this on Hallmark
Yeah.
Movies now,
Mm-hmm.
because I couldn't wait till it was coming.
Yeah.
I figured it was a big deal when it landed on Hallmark Movies
Mm-hmm.
and now.
Yeah.
So and then immediately it went to the Paris Proposal one after that. Yeah, he needs
Mm-hmm.
to be doing a whole heck of a lot more of these.
Yeah. He's great.
He was great.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that was also the scene when Harriet was saying how she always looked up to, I think, Elizabeth. And, Mr. Darcy was like, "Well, that doesn't make sense because she's 10 years,
Right. Yep. Yep.
I think you're senior or, 10 years older or younger." I can't remember what the exact
Well,
line was, but yeah.
yeah, she would be 10 years younger than
Yeah.
Harriet would be. So yeah,
Yes. 10 years younger. Yeah.
yeah, you're right. He would understand why she's saying what she's saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was Mr. is it Bentley, right?
What was it?
Bentley is the
Bingley. Mr.
Bingley?
Bingley. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Bingley. Yeah, for Mr. Bingley, oh my gosh. The his sister was quite the character.
Yeah. Caroline. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
I'd be curious to know. I mean, I'm assuming that was pretty close to the book, but
Yeah.
yeah, she wasn't taking him
Yeah.
having a crush on anybody that she didn't
Yeah.
want him to have a crush on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed. Can we also just talk about the scene with Harriet, Elizabeth, and Jane in Netherland? And this is when Jane is recovering from being sick. And Harriet mentions that she can see the future and how she's living a book. Elizabeth and Jane want to test her about who they marry. And I love how Elizabeth is like, "I need to know who I'll marry. I'll die if you don't tell me."
Right.
And
And then she didn't like her answer.
nope, not happy at all. But Jane, on the other hand, is very happy because she is in love with Mr. Bingley, and that is who Harriet says she will marry.
Yes.
What did you think about Elizabeth's reaction? Was it something you expected, or did she maybe overreact just a little bit?
Oh, 100% what I would expect from her, because at that point she
She
doesn't
didn't
like
like,
Mr.
yeah,
Darcy. And so when you're going to do everything and be completely have that wall up that
mm-hmm.
you don't know what you're talking about. And so I think she pretty much had that wall up the entire movie until the last like 10 minutes. But
Yeah,
yeah,
agreed. Yeah.
no, 100% what I would expect. Plus you got your
Same.
enemies to lovers.
Yes, and that is one of my favorite romantic tropes. So
Can't go wrong with it.
no, the dinner with Mr. Collins, that was so awkward over pea soup.
And he didn't care which one he was going to be with, just give him a wife. That is the one thing that I struggle with. I mean, but that's what the world was like back then. But when you watch these movies, you're just like, oh, oh, maybe I'll fall in love with them. And it's just so, and that one was literally that story of like, okay, well, that one's not going to work. How about this one? And then mom like, well, number 3. And I'm like, is it a cattle drive?
The mom was just like, well, Jane is soon to be engaged. So not her.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Did he say? I mean, I'm pretty sure he said it. Didn't he say that they were each pleasing, and then with Elizabeth, she was not pleasing to him?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to number three.
Yeah.
But then you gotta love Harriet at that point, who was literally just like rolling her eyes because this is not how the world is done
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yes.
And and then my favorite out of all of Harriet's responses, and it kind of comes after this when all of the after that engagement that he does
Mhm.
have falls
Yeah.
apart. She's like, this is a great thing. This is a good thing. I promise it's a good thing. And they're all like, like,
Yeah.
but of course, I mean, I understand where the mom was, they
Yeah.
needed the security. That's why
Mhm.
they did back
Yeah.
then. But
Yeah.
it was, yeah, it was one of
Yeah.
those that when you start seeing, you're like, okay, well, how about this one? You're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
she saw through these people. And she saw through how Mr. Darcy was, she saw through
Yeah.
how this guy was. And so she wasn't, she is a very independent woman. She wasn't going to take
Yeah.
anybody's crap. And so therefore, if a guy wanted to be frank, if a guy wanted somebody he
Mhm.
could control or not have somebody who's going to
Yeah.
bounce back at you, then of
Mhm.
course she would be pleasing.
Yeah.
But pleasing is definitely, since I've been watching Bridgerton, is
Mhm.
quite the word that I understand is
Yeah.
every in this with
Yeah.
these romance
Yeah.
movies.
I also thought it was kind of comical the next day when the engagement is announced with Mary and Mr. Collins and Harriet's reaction. She's like, "No, this is not going to work. This can't
Mhm.
happen." And then they all walk away and Mr.
Yep.
Collins is like, "Do you speak of someone in particular?" And Harriet's
Yeah.
just like, "I can't with you."
Exactly. See, that's where I'm saying it was a camel drive. He didn't care, but and obviously he was accepting of who the mother said was going to
Yeah.
be his choice, but it wasn't his choice. So he
Yeah.
too was searching for something else.
Yes. And then Harriet and Mary have a talk and Mary was like, "Yes, I can marry this man." Even though
Right.
Harriet was like, "No, you don't even know him. Don't
Right.
don't marry this weirdo." And
But
then
she felt that
yeah,
responsibility for the family to take care of them. So yep,
yes,
it was
which
her
is
duty.
understandable. And then
Mhm.
Mary walks away, and I think this is when Harriet said, "Well, I didn't say no to the proposal. I said
Right.
maybe."
Yeah. Yep. She's like, and that was just the thing, is everything also did come back to her trying to re-examine her own self too. So
Yeah,
I thought, yeah,
yeah,
they did that well.
yes. The scene with the Bennets and Harriet in town when they meet George Wickham.
Mm.
Harriet's kind of, off the cuff. That was hilarious.
Yeah, because she knows who he is and what he is. She's smarter than me on this one because I had to guess who his character was based on just watching this movie, but obviously he's not who he says he's supposed to be. And so she's so protective of these sisters
Yes, she is.
that and by this time also realizing that the story falls apart, it
Mhm.
isn't the same history that it used to be.
Yeah,
And so that can't happen. So
yeah,
so then she's working overtime. It's not go with the flow anymore and see what happens. It's like, how do I fix this?
yeah.
And so when he comes into the scene, then she's like, it's like another thing I have to deal with.
Yep, yep. And then they see Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy, and Mr. Darcy is like reciting poetry, and Harriet was like, "Well, that's
Yes.
plagiarism."
Yes. Yep. But he did it well.
Yep. And then we get to the second ball, and the Bennets meet the Duchess. Harriet meddles
The
with
Duchess, what did you think? Had you known she was going to be in it?
um I wasn't sure, but I'm glad that they did show her. I thought that was nice. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, what I found very interesting is she was executive producer on it too.
Wow, that's awesome. I did not know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so then, and I don't know if I had seen it in like a teaser
Mm-hmm.
picture or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and that I knew it was that I was expecting it. But yeah, they actually they gave her a nice little a nice little part. I'm
They
assuming
did, yeah.
that was based off of the real character and she just came in and did it. But yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I like they did that. Yeah.
that was a fun cameo.
Yes, it was. And then Harriet medals for Mr. Collins and Charlotte.
Hmm.
And Mr. Wickham arrives and wants to dance with Elizabeth. And I love how Elizabeth is like, well, time is of the essence. And then Harriet is like, time is of the essence. Like,
Like I said, unapologetically her. That's it's
yep.
just like by this
Yes.
time she's so fed up too because she can't figure, she's stuck trying to figure out her own life and then trying to fix all these things. And then after Darcy proposes to her, she goes back and then tries to grab Elizabeth
Elizabeth
from him,
George, yeah. Mr.
yeah, for
Wickham,
George.
yeah.
And just like, and she's like, don't have time for this, just, kind of a thing. And once again, Elizabeth wasn't having it. She was going to do everything. Because at that point, she wasn't believing who Harriet said she
George.
was
Yeah.
because of
Mm-hmm.
everything had been falling apart since, or
Yeah.
Harriet had come into Elizabeth's
Mm-hmm.
life.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes was Harriet's talk while looking up at the stars, and she says, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me, the Taylor Swift."
Yes. Yes. And it was just, well, number one, I don't know about you, but I was about ready to go into song. I mean, I was just going to start singing it. And then that's what I loved. It was just like, it really was an appropriate thing to say to the sky. And yet it was a reference to pop culture. And so, whoever
Yeah.
the writer, phenomenal. It was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
She really is the voice of a generation. I agree with Harriet there.
Yes. Yes. And then afterwards, when she's just like, kind of like she's expecting, because she's come to her realization
Hmm.
that she's expecting it to now transport her back. And,
Hmm.
and she's just like, okay, well, that's
Yep.
it. Like, what else
Yeah.
can I do?
Yes. This scene also had one of my favorite quotes in the movie when she says, maybe love isn't about finding some magical puzzle piece or writing the perfect book. Maybe it's about finding the moments between the pages.
Yeah,
Great line.
great line.
Another kind of comical moment at the end was when Harriet, Elizabeth, and Jane find out that Mr. Bingley left and they decide to go after him, or Jane
Mhm.
and Harriet, and they all walk out, and Harriet is like, I love a dramatic exit.
Yes. Yep, the one-liners were great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I'm assuming that in the story, Jane stands up for herself of what she wants, that they
Hmm.
took that true to the story.
I,
So,
I would think so.
really liked that scene. And then
Hmm.
she, and then of course, and then Harriet was like, well, that's not the way I thought it was gonna go.
Yeah,
And
because things didn't
so,
go well.
yeah, so then that was why I was kind of wondering if it was true to the book or if it was
Hmm.
something that they had brought
Yeah.
into this movie version,
Yeah.
because she had expected it to be a
Yeah.
completely different outcome.
Yeah. I would have to read the book again. It's been a very long time since
Hmm.
I've read it. I also thought a nice moment was Harriet and Mrs. Bennet in the flower field. That was nice when
Yeah.
she's talking about how all she wants is for her daughters to be loved and cared for, and
Hmm.
about being a mother herself. So that was sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, that was what I mean. I didn't dislike Mrs. Bennet, but that was
Yeah.
when she really pulled, where it was just like, because you
Hmm.
knew where her heart and where her
Yeah.
heart was that she just wanted them to be cared for and
Hmm.
protected. And so
Yes.
you can't fault a parent for wanting to
No.
do what they feel is
Yeah.
best for their child, even if
Yeah.
that's not how
Yeah.
our generations would do it. But that was when you actually, and that Harriet got to see that
Hmm.
she wasn't, if she had interpreted her as something that really wasn't who she was.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, Elizabeth runs off with Mr. Wickham, and Harriet finds out. Well, all the Bennets find out, and Harriet. And Harriet is determined to fix it. So she
Hmm.
runs outside. Mr. Darcy is there. And the two of them go to his father's church to
Mhm.
stop the wedding, which they do. And then, of course, Elizabeth apologizes and makes things right. So I thought that was a nice moment as well.
Yes. And then that's when their love came softly.
Yes. And then that's when,
He was the knight in shining armor.
yes, I thought the carriage ride back to their home was nice,
Hmm.
or their
Yeah.
hometown. Yeah.
And the reference that came back to being tired all the time because Harriet's trying to give him privacy as she's
Yeah,
watching
she's
it
like,
finally unfold. Yeah, and I don't remember exactly the line,
I
but
don't either. Yeah.
yeah, it was just like, yep, they sleep a lot in America or something along the lines like that.
Yeah, and then she eventually just gets out of the carriage, which I
Yeah.
thought that was sweet to give
Hmm.
them some alone time
Yeah.
together.
And then when we get back, isn't that about the time that Jane gets proposed to?
Yes. Yep. We find
Yeah.
out about Mr. Collins breaking off the engagement with Mary, and then we have the scene when I guess they're in the sitting room, all
Hmm.
the Bennets and Harriet, and then they see Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley arriving.
Okay, how hysterical was that when they were facing the wrong way?
Yes, that was funny.
And they're like, no, look presentable. They're all like, essentially sticking out their chest and looking all so tall. And then, yeah, I was like,
Turned
kudos
around
to
the
that
wrong
one.
way.
Yep, wrong one.
Yep, they hear the guys come in, or they hear their father come in, and Mr.
Hmm.
Bingley, of course, and then they
Yep,
turn around the right way.
yeah, yep. No, that's the kind of comedy that I feel is missing from so many of these movies. Just eh,
Yes.
yeah.
Also, can we talk about how Mr. Bingley wanted to, propose in private to Jane, and then everyone leaves the
Yeah,
room, but then they're still listening with the door cracked, like their heads are
right.
like one
Yeah.
tooth.
Yes. Oh, that was so stinking cute because there's so many movies that do that too. And so, and once again, I feel bad not watching any other ones to see if they've done that in the other ones. But yeah, no, I thought that was so,
Yeah.
appropriate for everybody just being so curious. I mean, they were honestly genuinely excited and happy for her. And
Yes.
they just, especially the youngest, was just like, she wasn't going to
Mhm.
miss out on watching this moment. So,
Yep.
but I will say, once again, this is another question I have about the time period
Hmm.
is I thought everybody was always chaperoned for, and
That's a
so
good
I was
question.
surprised.
Yeah.
So I was surprised at the father saying that, he was willing to get privacy because, and it could be because Mr. Bingley had already had the conversation and they knew what the
Yeah.
intention was. But I was just like, according to every other kind of ones I'm watching at this time, like to not be chaperoned is not okay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that makes sense.
So then
Yeah.
in some ways the door being open still, and all, I mean, even though the father, Mr. Bennett, really had walked away at that point, he
Hmm.
wasn't one of the ones who was peeking his head in. He hadn't gotten far. And that,
No, yeah.
they were still being chaperoned
Yeah.
because everybody was spying on them.
Yes, very true. So
But,
I'll let it slide for that reason. So
yeah. But I mean,
yeah.
it's really, honestly, it's no different than the fact that Darcy and Elizabeth end up, outside walking themselves too. So, but it was just, obviously I've been
Mhm.
watching too many period pieces because it was the first thing that came to mind. I'm like, where's the chaperoning?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that until you said it, but it makes sense. So I agree.
Yeah.
And I thought Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth's proposal was nice too, or his proposal to her. Yeah.
Yes. So the whole scene was so sweet. And then I
Yeah.
loved that Harriet came out and then
She
because she was
saw it.
looking for her, saw it, and it was just that contentment, and then
Yeah.
and then she turned and walked away to give them
Yeah.
that privacy. So
Yes.
obviously the chaperone thing theory doesn't really fall into the Hallmark realm, but
I did love the short scene we got with I guess it was an engagement party with everyone.
mhm.
And then Harriet leaves and goes to the bedroom to read the book that Mr. Darcy gave her, and then she
Mhm.
falls asleep and she wakes up in her time again. So,
Mhm.
yay!
Yes, and yeah, like you said, seamless with how they did
Mhm.
that transitions to the
Yeah.
time periods.
Yes. Also, her comment about the cab driver because he was like ready for her to get out of the car and she was
Yeah,
like,
that
some
seemed.
hospitality. Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously it was so she could have the snarky line, but it was just kind of like, I mean, because when she was just like, it really did happen. So she hadn't been supposedly sitting
Yeah.
in that cab the entire time.
Hmm.
So I was just I'm like, well, he didn't care about his fare. It's like out.
Scrat, I think is that what
Yeah,
he said.
yeah, that's the word. Yeah,
Scram. Scram.
scram, get going. I think scrap might be another one of them too, but yeah,
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 scram was the word.
because all she wanted was was for him to now bring him to her boyfriend's house,
Yeah, but he didn't.
I mean, what cab driver, unless he or Uber driver or however it would be in today's world, unless they had another immediate thing, would say no because it's more money in your pocket. So
I
that's where I
know,
was like,
exactly. Yeah.
so he's just like, get out. I'm like, but she wasn't even in there for this long period of time.
Some hospitality we have in the
Yeah, so
present day.
her line was perfect.
Yes. Also, riding the scooter, like her walking up to the scooter and she's like, really? Download an app?
Yes. For missing her phone, she wanted those simpler times back.
Yeah. But she does it quickly and then she rides the scooter to Ethan's house and professes her feelings over I don't know what it's called. I guess the voice
Oh, the
machine.
intercom.
The intercom. I couldn't think of the name of it, but yeah.
Yeah.
And Ethan, of course, hears the whole thing.
Yeah. And then it goes to because of how long she's talking, it goes to voicemail. And she's like, seriously? Which is, once again, another perfect rom-com moment from many
Yeah.
movies where it's just like I
Yes.
was in the middle of a sentence.
Yes. I thought it was sweet though, how he heard just enough to
Mm-hmm.
get the picture and then they talk and she proposes to him this time.
Mm-hmm.
And he says maybe this time.
Maybe.
And
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Oh, that was the perfect close for it, where it was just like, and then she's like, okay, but is your maybe different than what my maybe was,
yeah,
kind
is
of a
that a
thing.
yes? And he was like,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
That
So
was
sweet.
sweet. Yes. And they lived happily ever after. And we
And
see,
yes, and I loved
yeah,
that it came back with, and that it came back to the movie title with the book that
the
she had
book.
written based on her
Yes.
experience.
Yeah. That was
So yeah.
awesome. Yeah. I loved that. And that's one reason why I want, or I would love to see another movie with Harriet and Ethan.
Hmm. I agree with you because
Yeah.
once again, I just don't feel like they're.
We didn't get enough.
Well, I cheered because that's what her heart
Yeah.
desired and what she after self-reflection,
Hmm.
it's what she knew she wanted.
Yeah.
It's just so hard to cheer when you're just like, but wait a second. But I
Yeah.
guess we had known that they'd been together for 3 years, so it
Hmm.
wasn't a quick relationship.
Yeah.
That they had met with the things that they had in
Hmm.
common. So but I agree with you. Yeah, it
Yeah.
would be nice. I would love to see for sure more Eliza
Mhm.
movies. I don't know
Yeah.
if she's done other ones or not yet.
This might be her first. I don't know. I would have to
Uh,
look on her IMDb.
but yeah, I mean, so, and I
Yeah.
have never seen that actor who played.
Mm-mm. I haven't
So
either. I don't
yes,
think. Yeah.
so I'd like to. I mean, I think at that point now it's just kind of like wanting to get to know more of
Yeah.
who he is as an actor too. So
Yeah.
absolutely bring in
Yes.
another one, and then some. They could go. The two of them could go into another book.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
thought that the actor who played Ethan was very charming.
Hmm. Oh,
I
I
actually
agree. Yeah.
liked Ethan as a character.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just why I had struggled, was because
Yeah.
I liked him, but I just had wanted more, and in
Wanted
2 hours
more.
there's
Yeah.
just not enough time.
Yes. Moving into our ratings segment, would you like to go first and
Okay.
share yours?
I'm gonna let you go first, and I'm gonna go after
Okay.
you.
All right. Sounds
Okay.
good. So for plot and script, I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Chemistry, 10 out of 10. Time period, 9 out of 10. And it was a 10 out of 10. But based on the proposal scenes that we just talked about, it got bumped to a 9. So,
Okay.
and then overall, 10 out of 10. I thought this movie was fantastic.
Okay, you do me a favor and you say them, and then I'll give you my number.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
Plot and script.
I'm gonna go with a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Yep. Because like I said, there's just a few more things that I had wanted that wasn't there, so that extra portion would bring it up to a 10 over 10.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually changed my answer, so mine's the same as you. 9 out of 10. Because there were some things that I wanted to see more of, like Ethan and Harriet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Chemistry.
Oh, as a cast as a whole, I'd give the entire cast a 10 out of 10. And then I mean 10 and 10 for Mr. Darcy.
Yes.
He's getting a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
He's getting his own category. It didn't matter who he was with. He was having chemistry with everybody.
Very true. Yes.
So, but I mean, the thing is for this one too, is there was just so many separate love stories, and so it's hard to rate it.
Yeah, it's hard to rate it. Yeah.
So, but as I loved everybody, I felt in their role was well suited for their role, and so therefore I'd give the entire cast a 10 out of 10.
Yes, sounds good. Time period.
Oh, 100%. A 10 out of 10. For me, the costuming was on point. The estates were stunning. And I mean, even down to the details of their drivers for the carriages and things like that. I mean, like everything. There wasn't one thing that was out of place for the time period.
Yeah, I agree. Except for that one thing with the proposal, but
oh yeah. But but what's kind of funny is then when you think about the time period and stuff like that, where what was just a shirt dress in our time, and they're like, do you travel in your pajamas? And I mean, at that point, her dress wasn't even really a dress anymore. I don't think she had the belt on at that point when she came. So. I think it was, so it was just like it was kind of they did good where they were able to use it both time periods.
Yeah, 100%. Overall.
Oh, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I said, I've watched it at least 3 times, and I don't think it's gonna stop. I'm definitely gonna have another rewatch after this.
It's good. Probably one of the best of the year, definitely, by far.
It was my top out of the year so far, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as of right now, it's my number 1 for 2024. So.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of is. Once you see Sense and Sensibility, it might tie it with it, but they're 2 different. Besides the Jane Austen stories. Being a comment, it's they're both wonderful for different reasons. Yeah.
I'm excited to see it.
Oh, let me know after you watch it.
I'll definitely let you know. Yeah, I have a lot of movies to catch up on. Still haven't seen that one. Still haven't seen the Luke McFarlane mystery.
I'm kind of bad too, because I've been rewatching ones that I really enjoy, and I've been going back and watching One Calls the Heart again. Yeah. So that that takes you. I'm like, how many can I get in this weekend? They really did knock all of that the costuming out of the park with all of these. And once again, I want to go to where these places are, because I want to go stay in these mansions. Yes. So that to me was, I was kind of like, what's the Lovey budget? It seems to be a little bit higher than some other ones.
Yes.
But yeah,
they did a fantastic job. Well done to the entire cast and crew of this movie. Well, this was so much fun, Catherine. Thank you for joining me for this movie. I had a great time.
Thank you, Nicole, for having me. And
of course.
I hope I get to come back.
Of course. I'll definitely have you back on again in the future.
I look forward to it.
Yes, definitely. All right, Hallmarkies. I think that wraps up our review of An American in Austen. If you enjoyed this episode, you can like this video and share your thoughts on the movie in the comments. If you want to stay up to date on all of my movie reviews and any interviews I might have, you can subscribe to this channel and make sure to turn on the bell so you are alerted when new episodes come. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a great day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you next time. We love y'all. Bye!